Heyo everybody, Haku here with my read-through for part 3 of Magical Girl Raising Project JOKERS, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku Raising Project, Chapter 3 of JOKERS, A Miraculous Meeting, part 3 of that. So yeah, let's get into reading this. So we're starting off with page 41. We just finally got introduced to all our characters. I recorded my character death predictions before this. Probably going to keep this intro very short because there's not a ton to talk about for the intro, but all the characters are starting to come together. My thoughts on all the characters are kind of in the death predictions, so that'd be a good video to look at before this. I wanted to record that before this, which is why this is up a little bit later, because I wanted to record it before I took the chance of reading and any of the characters dying. But I love the characters this arc so much, I really hope no one dies at all. But we're going to be starting at page 41, going to page 61, and I find it interesting that I have a fall scene break at 21, 41, and 61 that I can stop and start at. But yeah, we're going to be going 41 to 61 here if you're reading along. So starting with fall there, and for those of you that aren't following along but need to know where we are, we just saw, oh yeah, the freelancers met Grimm and Shufflin, and then Kafaria said, you know, the order's changed, the order. So yeah, I'm excited, I'm interested. Like I said, the biggest part of me loving it is that I love all the characters this arc. So here we go with fall. And sorry my voice is already kind of going because of recording before this. Actually, let me grab some water before I even start. Alright, now we have fall. Fall. The bifurcated roads seemed to be leading further away from each other. Looking around, you wouldn't be able to see the other fork. Furthermore, as they proceeded further, it curved to the right. When they reached the corner, Snow White took out her weapon from her bag. Lady Proud and Umbrain felt nervous. Snow White pointed her blade forward, using the reflection she saw to check her corners. The road just continued. There was nothing other than that. Snow White proceeded in front, whilst wielding ruler. Her powers could detect ambushes, but not mechanical traps. That was part of Fall's responsibility. The ceiling, floors, walls, not to mention the front and back. Fall continued to search in 6 directions and kept looking for traps. Snow White moved at Fall's sensing pace, which slowed her walking speed down. Alright. Just having Lady Proud's heels hit the floor made a resonating sound. These halls had no one in them. After a while, they ended up at a wall. It was a wall, but it looked more like a shutter. In its flank was a panel that was installed. It looked like if you pushed it, the shutters would open. Then they continued marching. The sense of tension tightened. They found another shutter, but this time, before Snow White could press the panel to open it, or rather just before it, the shutter moved upwards. Before she could even push the open button, someone on the other side had already done the same. She saw feet, ankles, thighs, then a waist. The figure on the other side was slowly revealed. Naturally, the other side would see her like this as well. Both of them hurriedly retreated. Fall was unexpectedly surprised. On the other side of the shutter was not another passage, it was a room. There were trees growing within this room, not just on a level that you'd have by growing them indoors. The roots were real. On the base of the tall trees there was also grass growing. It was like a forest. If it weren't for the pure white ceiling and the fact that they were underground, it could easily be thought of as one. And in this room there were 2 magical girls standing. This facility is forbidden to anyone without permission. The magical girl that was declaring loudly was wielding a trident. She had fish scales on part of her legs and was wearing a swimsuit-like costume. She had brilliant blue hair reminiscent of the sea. Her tiara's gem was also shining blue. Also, I forgot to take into the fact that when I did my death predictions, I forgot to take into account that Akari or Inferno was Snow White's friend. But either way, just keep that in mind, I guess, in hindsight. If you don't leave, we'll use force. The one that said that was a magical girl with a ridiculously huge cubed hammer. The sharp horns at the tip of the hammer gave off a murderous intent. She had a tail similar to that of a reptile. Why did I say fish? The gem on her tiara was shining a bright yellow. Alright. The tiara designs were similar other than their colors. Could this be a characteristic of man-made magical girls? Lady Proud began talking to the two of them with a slightly stiff voice. You two, are you man-made magical girls? Man-made? What are you talking about? They weren't acting. They really didn't know anything about man-made magical girls. But are they truly not them? The hammer magical girl raised her weapon. No more talking. Leave or surrender. The trident girl took a step forward. What she said. We don't want to hurt you. Wait. Snow White said that. We don't intend to fight you. Yes, we do. That was Umbrain. She denied Snow White's statement, moving forward with the umbrella on her shoulder. They say you can get to know someone better by fighting them. The hammer girl brought her giant hammer down, but Umbrain's umbrella was faster. The hammer was brought down to Umbrain's umbrella, but it didn't crush it. Instead, it bounced off lightly. The hammer girl had a look of surprise, then swung down her hammer again. Umbrain slid under while still holding her umbrella and entered the room. If it's a fight you want, I'm all for it. The trident girl swung her weapon, but as expected, it just bounced off softly when stopped by the umbrella. However, upon contact with the umbrella, its surface became frozen. Umbrain hurriedly stepped back, and when the trident girl took chase, a small red bottle flew towards her. Sorry about that. I'm back now. Voice still gone, though. So, what happened was... Okay, the last paragraph I was at was she swung her trident at the small... Wait. No, never mind. It was... The trident girl swung her weapon, but as expected, it bounced off softly when stopped by the umbrella. However, upon contact with the umbrella, its surface became frozen. Umbrain hurriedly stepped back, and when the trident girl took chase, a small red bottle flew towards her. She swung her trident at the small bottle, probably trying to freeze it like she did Umbrain's umbrella. However, just before she made contact, the bottle exploded. No sooner than the bottle had exploded, anything touched by the liquid had its surface turn into white smoke. The trident girl smelled its repugnant smell and had a disgruntled face as she retreated, the hammer girl following along. Lady Proud herself went into the room to support Umbrain. Snow White brought her magical phone close to her mouth. Stop this. They instinctively looked at her. She had power in her voice, despite how small a tone it was. Stop what? I'm not going to use my blade against someone who's not my enemy. She wasn't... And see, this is good. Snow White knows what's going on, because she can tell what people are thinking. She wasn't glaring. She wasn't scolding. Her face had no indication of bursting into anger, yet her strong intention was conveyed. Fall instantaneously guessed what he was being asked for, making a caution sound at max volume. 3 magical girls detected. Too much. We need to retreat and regroup, Pone. Okay. Lady Proud and Umbrain stopped at once. When they turned around to see Snow White, she was already running back into the halls, pushing the panel on the shutter. Right? Foreign Affairs Division are combat experts. If they knew they were inferior in numbers, they wouldn't push an impossible fight. After checking that Umbrain and Lady Proud were retreating, Snow White dove back into the hallways. Okay, so she just did that to end the fight. Alright. Princess Inferno. Mysterious magical girls have attacked them, though they didn't take aggressive action. It was fitting to call it an attack. The whole thing sounded super interesting. Running around at full power as a magical girl was exciting, but the disruptors had no teeth. They were boring. That's probably because they were all fighting as a group of magical girls. She wanted a bit more fun. Quake prioritized safety above all. Quake was a leader, so she had to say stuff like that. No one at the top would say safety's nothing compared to exciting battles, as it wasn't fitting. As a leader, she had to make sure her instructions were interpreted and followed by her subordinates. Leaving the first training room, the water field, they passed through the bulkhead and the aisles, arriving at the third training room, the desert. There seemed to be no one there. Walking while keeping an eye out for the suspicious magical girls at the entrance, she spoke to Tempest. What do you think, Tempest? What do I think of what? Isn't this fun? You're asking me if an emergency is fun. No. This is strictly off record. Be honest. Tempest closed her mouth, looked at the ceiling, twirling her body as she headed up, her tied-up hair fluttering around as she sighed out. Honestly, this is kind of fun. Right? I think so too. But isn't this a little scary? This is different from my last fight. There's so many of them. What's wrong, Tempest? Scared? I'm not scared. Don't worry, nothing can be a match for magical girls. The desert area had a rough scenery. In the rocky area, it was built for good athletic fun. The trees area was good for climbing. The water area was cool and was Inferno's favorite. This wasn't like a normal desert either. There was a ceiling instead of the sun. While it was wide, there were boundary walls, and air adjustments were made to keep the room warm. It didn't have a homey feeling. No cacti or camels, no flora or fauna unique to deserts. There was really nothing here. Thanks to the sandy hills scattering the area, there was also no good spot to get a good view of the location. The bulkhead behind her closed. Inferno could only hear the sounds of her boots hitting the sand. She felt her legs sinking into the sand. She wondered if she could easily pull it out. She must have gotten so excited that she stepped too hard. Hey, listen, even if you think this is fun, don't do anything rash, okay? You're quite young to be the moralist. Didn't you say that you thought this was fun too? Or did you forget that you were boasting about how easily you drove them away? Age has nothing to do with it. You're still acting like a kid. Inferno, so I gotta be the adult here. The bulkhead opened. Not the one behind them, but the one in front of them. Just as they were walking across the sand and talking, in front of them they heard footsteps approaching closer. But they couldn't see thanks to being hidden behind a sand hill. Right? The pace quickened. She didn't know who it was, but because she's come all this way, her heart was beating fast. Come on, focus, she thought to herself. She can't make a game face as her magical girl if she broke. Okay. There was no hesitation in their footsteps. They didn't hesitate coming closer to them. Inferno held her breath, but Tempest breathed out. She couldn't handle the stress from the tension, balling her fists and placing them on her feet. Was Tempest trying to release her own tension, or was it because she was relaxed? She didn't really know. The magical girls they saw from the top of the sand mountain were quite different from the magical girls that Tempest said she saw. There was one with a large flower growing on her head. She's probably seen that flower before, but Inferno doesn't remember any flowers' names. Flowers are just flowers to her. The magical girl looked at Inferno and Tempest. Oh, she smiled. The happy flower magical girl was the happy flower magical girl, a hairdresser, and a clown. There were many types, though none of them were matching. We win that one, she said in her heart. You're forbidden to just come in here. We don't know what you want. We don't care. The flower magical girl interrupted Tempest, shouting. The hairdresser wanted to put her hands to stop her, but the flower magical girl already took a step forward. Ain't this fun? It's impossible to get them to back off now. Inferno also stepped forward. She gulped, swallowing all the tension with it. Being afraid was not her personality. If you think it's fun, then come and get me. All right. Two have found their match. The flower magical girl shouted out in pleasure, then ran. But when Inferno simply thought of running, she was already in front of her. Her speed was so fast it was almost funny. The hairdresser followed, and Tempest shouted, "See, this is why you're like a kid, Inferno, you big idiot." Nothing wrong with that. She started out with a warning shot, thrusting her blade toward the flower. Then she heard a metal clang, and the feeling that she felt. This wasn't an ordinary flower. She stepped back and swung, but it was parried. So she decided to swing downwards, but it was parried too. If attacking from above means the flower will guard her, then an attack from below should work. She retired back, then slashed from the bottom, but her blade was stopped. The flower magical girl grabbed the bladed part with her right hand, her left hand holding the handle. Inferno tried to pull it away from her, but it didn't move. Despite gritting her teeth and using her full strength, it didn't move at all. Not even the biggest disruptors had strength like this. The hairdresser began slashing with scissors, and the clown began kicking. Their movements were sharp. The crescent sword was thrown, and as it rolled and scattered in the sand, Inferno retreated backwards and managed to avoid their attack somehow. Why'd you have to provoke them? She was being scolded by an elementary schooler. Well, it was just the mood, you know. Mood is more important than your life, idiot. Your mood is more important than your life, idiot. Inferno touched the princess jewel with her finger. She called back her sword and gripped it tightly. I thought they said no luxury modes. Luxury mode on. Her enemies were faster than disruptors and had enough strength to grip the blade. They were stronger than Inferno. It'd be arrogant of her to underestimate her enemies now. Magical energy coursed throughout her body. It was a power so big that you couldn't suppress its emission. After twirling her blade 3 times, she pointed it at the enemy. It was a show of intimidation. She was also sending a message to Prism Cherry in the briefing room. Inferno shouted and attacked at the same time. It was an attack that was made without a care for her opponent. Her blow filled with vigorous spirit. If they were hit with this, there's no way they were coming out of it safely. The Flower Magical Girl blocked the attack with her head flower, then clamped her feet down in an effort to pursue. But then she stopped. The flower she used to block the attack had withered away. Okay? Princess Inferno had the energy of fire dwelling inside of her. If she unleashed it all by fighting with luxury mode, her crescent blade will burn to a high degree. A single blow will burn the enemy. She swung it once, then twice, the Flower Magical Girl dodging and weaving as she retreated. Princess Tempest threw a boomerang above. The clown had tried to throw knives to stop it, but they were sliced away and fell to the sand. Without changing orbit, the boomerang went back to Tempest's hand. Princess Tempest had the energy of wind dwelling inside her. Her boomerang was able to cut through anything, and while it slashed everything apart, it'll always return back to her hand. Then, black goo began oozing from the ground, forming into humanoids. This was the work of Prism Cherry, that Inferno had given a signal to. When disruptors were recovered, the pure elements would use them as training. They'd activate it from the briefing room and spawn disruptors in the training rooms. However, this time it was for repelling the intruders. The hairstylist shouted out, "What on earth is that?" and jumped back. Training disruptors can be set to find out who they thought of as enemies. Prism Cherry knew this as well. The hairstylist swung her scissors to slice off the disruptor's arm, but it wasn't something that would be fatal to them. The moment their attacks were blocked, they heard the energetic voice of other intruders. "We're here to support you." A voice from the entrance, a bubble straw-wielding magical girl, a thread magical girl, and a morning magical girl, just like Deluge and Tempest had said. Behind them, there was also a card soldier. This one they didn't report. When the card soldier saw Inferno's eyes, she shuddered and fell down on the sand, and because of that, sand clouds flew up, obscuring her. "You guys, you need more disciplining, huh? My, you already feel like winning, don't you?" Since Tempest was showered with laughter from the morning girl, her face became fully red with anger. "You stupid crow. This time, you're not going to be able to stop me." She flew as she activated luxury mode, flying low above the sand just as the morning girl did. It seems to be a divide-and-conquer strategy using provocation. This would all look really good animated, but at the same time I feel bad that they're all fighting. They're all kind of good characters that should work together. But either way, I guess, I don't get the conflict here, because all the characters are great, and none of them really have a reason to fight each other. They should all just work together. But either way, stupid crow won't be able to stop me. Flying low above the sand as the morning girl did seemed to be a divide-and-conquer strategy using provocation. Tempest really is a hothead. The card soldiers took out a spear smoothly from their bag. On the tip of the spear was a spade mark. What? A spade mark? The card soldier she saw last time was a heart mark. It was a 3 of hearts, but this time it became a 3 of spades. The spade soldier used her spear and swiftly disposed of the disruptor. The way she swung it felt skillful. She was trained. It wasn't just her movements and her suit. Her expressions were completely different. When she was a heart, she was frightened and fell. This time she quickly closed in on her enemies. Inferno didn't get it, but she knew that it's the kind of magical girl she's dealing with. It was like Prism Cherry's ability to change images in a mirror, a special kind of power that didn't just need energy. A power that changed abilities and other things based on card suits. The hairdresser, the card, the clown all fought disruptors. The morning girl avoided boomerangs as she ran, and Tempest was chasing after her. Inferno's opponent was the flower magical girl. While everything around her was moving, she didn't lose her momentum of attack. 3 of her flower petals had already withered. Parts of her hair were burnt back. Alright, she had long eyelashes and the ends of them were shriveled, and parts of her costume had burnt. Inferno's attacks weren't the kind where if if you didn't get hit, you'd be fine. Simply being in close proximity should burn you with high-intensity heat. There's no way they could avoid it by even a paper-width length. Yet, the flower magical girl was smiling happily. Not bad, not bad. She smiled happily, tied up all the burnt hair with her fingertips and threw them away. Your powers and speed are so-so, and so-so on the line at least. Your powers, though, were awesome. Thanks for the compliments. Now, would you please surrender? Who do you think you're talking to, stupid? Try asking me that again. Come on. Inferno instinctively swung her sword in response to her words. However, the flower magical girl lowered her head and tackled her, succeeding to get inside her opening. But that's not all. She was trying to grab Inferno's legs. That's when Inferno placed power into her legs. With a blast, Inferno's entire body bursted with an explosion that sent the flower magical girl flying, after which she rolled off in the sand. Her movements were fast, but Inferno could still see some damage. She was more burnt than before, her body covered in white smoke. The tips of her hair were still burning. Why don't you try not forcing yourself? She huffed out as she twirled her crescent sword. If anything approached her, they'd burn out. Grass types are always weak to fire types in games. Even the flower magical girl hates fire. Hurry up and surrender, she thought as she charged towards her, swinging continuously, slashing towards her feet. And when she kept doing that, the flower magical girl kicked her leg up. Inferno didn't stop it in time. The thing that the flower girl kicked up was the sand in her feet, but Inferno backed away. It's said that being scared of sand was quite childish, but this was effective enough to stop her. Before the sand swelled up, Inferno changed her position and went on top of a sand mountain. She gripped the handle of her sword. She won't let herself be surprise attacked. If she stays vigilant, not even sand should surprise her. If her opponent's options are narrowed, her movements... Where was I? I lost my place. Hold on. If her opponent's options are narrowed, her movement should be readable. This is what she learned from Professor Tanaka. While Inferno wasn't good at things she learned at a desk, she'll never forget things her body learned. The sand dust cleared up. The flower magical girl moved 3 steps from her original position. She was opening up her palms and crouching down with a beast-like posture. As Inferno thought, her fangs also looked beastly. Ever since she was younger, she had an interest in animals and insects, but not for the ones that would bare their fangs at her. Inferno pointed the tip of her blade at her enemy. So, not keen on surrendering. You know, Flamey kept saying that too, and in the end she just cried and begged. Inferno gazed at the flower girl's eyebrows. The flower on top of her head had changed from before. The once withered flower had become full of life again. That wasn't all. It was also different. You're just like her too. Just like Flamey. You can't be approached. You burn up people like that. You've got powers that are boring to fight against. All long range, and you look down at people just 'cause you can do it. You got a bad mouth there. The flower petals opened wide in a large circle. Only the tips of the flowers were dyed in thin purple. The rest were completely white. Inferno had no interest in flowers, so she didn't know their names or types. However, she could feel a tingling sensation in her spine. As the girl bowed down and turned her head toward Inferno, Inferno moved as well. She held her crescent blade straight in front of her, putting herself in a form that'll fall on her back. There was a beam of light, and the bladed part of her sword flew toward the air. A beam! The beam continued to shoot. The place Inferno was standing before had sand smoking in its place. Only the handle part of the blade remained. It had been cleanly cut, losing the bladed part. It couldn't be melted with heat, nor could it be shattered by rock. This was the first time she'd seen this happen. The pure elements were especially crafted. If a magical girl smashed it, the pure element's weapons were especially crafted. Even if a magical girl smashed it, it'll never get broken. Even if Inferno grabbed it, the handle will never burn, nor will the blade melt. Generating enough energy to cut off the blade was not an easy thing to do. Then a third beam was fired, creating more dust smoke. She regretted that she had lost out in strength, but she won't lose in fighting spirit. Was her spirit broken now? Self-addressing herself only made her confused. Self-assessing herself only made her confused. Since she couldn't approach her, the magical girl had changed tactics. Having powers with that much flexibility made Inferno feel that the flower girl was on top. Not to mention, being hit with that beam means death. She shot without hesitation. There's no mistake that the power of that beam is something that could kill her, if not at least serious burns, not simple injuries. The sand clouds dispersed. Inferno noticed that the beams have stopped. Afterwards, she crawled up toward the sandy mountain top, imagining the vivid imagery of the flower girl. Okay. There, Inferno sprinkled the sand that she was tightening with her fist. While standing up, she kicked the sand at full power, then ran away at full power. Inferno was covered from head to toe with sand. In her mind, she imagined being shot with the beam from behind her. She wanted it to go away, but it didn't disappear. She reached the training room bulkhead. As she desperately tried to push open the button, she was still covered in sand. Then, as soon as the door slid up, she ran across the halls until she reached the briefing room, her breath panting non-stop. She could feel the magical girl power in her body decreasing. She took the medicine in the drawers and ate one, placing her mouth under a faucet to drink it down. Because she opened the drawer so vigorously, its contents spilled to the floor. She drank a bit more, coughing out. Only then was she finally relaxed. The medicine made her heart calm. It removed any nervousness from the pure elements when facing disruptors, and gives them courage. She straightened her body and placed her hands on the desk. Prism Cherry looked frightened and looked at her, as if something bad had happened. "I'm sorry, a lot of things happened, but I'm fine now." Yeah. Where's Tempest?" As soon as she noticed the meaning of those words, Inferno ran back. Alright, let me save this, because the battery is looking very much nearly dead. Sorry for the really odd jump cut, but the battery was dying, so I couldn't finish recording then, and honestly, looking back, I probably could have just posted what I had, but I wanted to give you the full 20 pages. So sorry, but here is the full thing. I'm back now to read the rest and to get to page 61. So where we left off, Inferno had just left Tempest. So yeah, let's see what happens next. Everybody should really just stop fighting each other and work together. I mean, they're all like, I don't know, none of them have a real reason to be fighting each other. They seriously need to, like, stop this shit. Especially if somebody dies, there's no reason for them to be fighting. They need to calm it down here. So we have Styler Mimi is where we're picking up, but of course you've been watching the video, so you're not picking up. But starting again, page 55 with Styler Mimi. Right in front of her eyes, black humanoids were wriggling. She's seen these things before, and remembering it gave her goosebumps. Malpom's wings. They were on the same level as them, and if they can just as freely transform, then she couldn't see any future other than defeat. She avoided their attacks with a feeling of hopelessness. However, they seemed to be different from Malpom's wings. Interesting. So what if somehow or another... Okay, crazy crackpot theory here. Somebody said something like I would never guess who the clown is, and as far as I know, the clown is Stunt Chica. But you know what? Now that they're comparing the whatevers to Malpom's wings, what if puts on conspiracy theory hat, InfoWars logo pops up behind me? What if what if Stunt Chica is Malpom and the disruptors are wings? But either way, we'll see what happens. Different from Malpom's wings. And then, what is this panel? This is all the girls fighting. We have Shufflin down there. Shufflin is so cute. Shufflin might be my favorite character already. I don't know why, I just completely love her. In the foreground there's Styler Mimi. We have Kafuria and Stunt Chica in the background, and whoa, Stunt Chica's legs. So yeah. But Stunt Chica has a lion's tail. See, totally not. I don't know, why am I conspiracy theorizing right now? Oh god, I don't know. Now I can't get the conspiracy theory out of my head. Their speed and reflexes were good, but it was at a range where Mimi could fight with. She was careful of the sharp claws that came out of their large arms, but they had enough openings that she could avoid them. She'd swing her scissors, kick them, and then hop backwards, swinging back and attacking them from behind. This was her way of fighting. The black humanoid's arm fell, and its back was slashed. Yet it was still struggling. More black sludge was about to bury... Wait. More black sludge was about to bury the wound that was made. Okay. I understand what they're saying. Regeneration was a trait of Malpom's wings, but the speed was different from Malpom's wings. It was weak enough that you could potentially slice it up before it could fully regenerate, and it gets weaker the more you damage it. The second slash took several seconds longer than the first to fully heal. She'd better concentrate her attacks all at once. However, if they don't fall down, she'll have to think again. Stunt Chica was throwing knives while avoiding attacks. Sometimes she'd kick, sometimes she'd punch, doing what she can to hurt the black humanoids. It looks like there's room for movements like that. Ridiculous and fancy motions, flips and dodges that were meaningless, conscious of how weird she looked. It seemed like the card soldier was a bit inferior to them. Her combat abilities have increased compared to when she was a heart, but she was still desperately fighting the black humanoid. A collaboration between Bubbles and Yarn allowed those two to fight multiple black humanoids. They blew in bubbles like a storm, used them as shields, as a smoke screen, and sometimes they'd use them as stepping stones. Those two were particularly strong. Perhaps it's good that they were allies. That say they wish to help. Right now, they're engaged in battle. Magical girls that seem like they had no composure would be like Marika and the Morning Girl. If you tried to poorly help Marika, she'd bite back, but she'd actually like it. The ones who could be finished off quickly would be the card soldier, then the Morning Girl. Stellar Mimi shouted out to Stunt Chica, We need to focus on attack power." Stunt Chica nodded and took out a hand axe from her sleeves. She threw it in the air, and the second one the third. Once she threw a fourth one, she began juggling, a clown juggling hand axes. It looked more like a horror movie than a circus performance. Mimi held a large razor blade with her left hand. On her right hand was her scissors. She used them to slice her enemies. Sometimes she'd work together with Stunt Chica, attacking the enemy's blind spots while also dodging the enemy's claws, repeating several times until the black humanoid was nothing more than a black sludge. Excitement began to fade away. It seems like it's over. Stunt Chica and the two other girls fought the remaining humanoids, and soon they went to help the card soldier, making it a 3-on-1 beatdown. The card soldier and Stunt Chica, and the two other magical girls using bubbles and threads, ran toward the Morning Girl after defeating the black humanoid. Marika Fukuroi must have seen their situation as she casually walked by. She got away. The flower on her head withered. When she got here, she had autumn cherries, but the withered flower was a daisy now. She must have discarded the autumn cherries and used the stronger ones to fight with. And she also said that her opponent escaped. Was she strong? She was. She still got some tricks up her sleeves too. Looks like it at least. It's rare for someone to run off when they still have some secret moves left, huh? Maybe the situation's just not right. Or maybe there's another reason for it. Marika annoyedly rolled her eyes and looked at the ceiling. There's no sun, but it's so hot. I hate fighting with fire in this heat. A desert environment wasn't suitable for growing flowers. Fire was also not friendly to plants. Marika's flower can last longer if raised and bloomed properly, but if she forcefully bloomed it, it would also wither faster. Being roasted by the desert heat means its lifespan was just as quick as it bloomed. Also, rather than she got away, she probably meant I missed my chance. There wouldn't be any opponent who was both hiding a secret while also trying to run away if they wanted to fight for fun or fight at full power. Marika Fukuroi's senses regarding finding a way to win were like a bloodhound. You guys spent so much time on those demons. Demons? They're creatures made of magic. Mages use them for escorts or servants. Magical girls make them too sometimes, but that's a rare case. Wait, why do you know that? 'Cause I know things, duh. She really wanted to talk back to that. Styler Mimi placed her hands on her hips and spat on the sand. They just reminded me of Malpom's wings is all. That's why I got scared. Yeah, Malpom dominates them. That's why it's Mao, a demon king, get it? Oh, that's why she's called that. Okay, that's not really why. She just likes to say that. Clemberry fought one back when she became a magical girl in her test. That one was a big one too. You guys really need to get up on her level when killing those things. Don't compare me with the forest musician. Of course I should. You're supposed to be Marika Fukuroi's partner after all. Anyways. Next page. Marika moved her line of sight to the sandy hill on her left. The morning girl should be there. Stunt Chica and the card soldier are running off to help her. She's a quiet one, but looks like she's all good. She looked quiet, however. She wasn't silent. She fought without any fierce battle noises. All they could hear was the sound of her feet trotting through the sand. From the sandy hill, they saw Stunt Chica appear again, followed by the card soldier. It seemed like the card soldier was trying to tell them something with her key noises, but since she didn't say anything, they had no idea what she said. Stunt Chica was also trying to tell her something via gestures, which made communication difficult. Huh? Morning Girl isn't here. Wait, how do you know what those two are saying? It's obvious if you just listen. I love the ones that can understand what they're saying. The Thread and Bubble Girls were shouting out while searching. It seems they disappeared somewhere. Oh, so did Tempest actually take Kafiria then? Okay. Despite being called a desert, or how large this 100-meter square room was, in the end it was only just a room. Even though they were obstructed by sandy hills, there was still a limit. With 6 people searching, they should have found her, yet the morning girl didn't come out. Think she's under the sand. Don't you think she'd come out by herself if she was? She's a magical girl. Meaning... The sliding door opened up. Everyone looked there. The card soldier ran along scared and hid behind the bubble girl. Somehow, she changed back to a heart again. The magical girl appearing behind the bulkhead was one of the earlier ones, a scorpion tail with a crescent sword, her hair tips being on fire. She was looking at all the magical girls in the room as if she hated them all. What's she thinking? Marika waved her hands, yelling, "Oi!" The magical girl ignored it and closed the bulkhead. Marika grumbled out while putting her hand on her chin. Looks like your friend's been kidnapped by the enemy. Seriously. My, that's troubling. The Thread magical girl's expression seemed to be serious. The Bubble magical girl seemed strangely calm. Perhaps so, but who do you mean by our friend? The Goodwold magical girls, of course. Stunt Chica placed her hands on her head with exaggerated movements. Gosh, I love freaking Stunt Chica so much. Stunt Chica is like my favorite, and so is Shufflin. Stunt Chica and Shufflin are my favorites. Also, they haven't mentioned Grimm, I don't think. So I wonder what she's doing right now. So yeah, that's it. We made it to 61. I'm going to get this all edited and posted as soon as possible. And then after that, as soon as possible, I'm going to be working on, gosh, why is my brain blanking out? The Promised Neverland read-through. So I got to record that after this. I'm going to go ahead and end this as quick as possible. I love this chapter so far. I love this arc so far. I really, really like Jokers. I think maybe it's not as good as Restart, but that's just because Restart is so amazing. I don't know if any arc can hold up to it, but so far Jokers is really, really good. And depending on how it goes, like I said, there's still not like a real conflict. They shouldn't be fighting, really. But depending on how it goes, it might end up being my second favorite behind Restart. At least right now. It's going to have to do a lot to beat Restart, though. Because I love it so far. I love all the characters, which I think is rare. But that's kind of where a problem comes in that I genuinely don't want any of them to die. So their deaths have to be good for me to not be salty about it. But yeah, I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed this part of the read-through. And Tuesday, so should only be a couple days from now, as soon as I can, I plan to get the rest of this up. So thank you so much for everything. And if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this chapter so far and what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more. Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku, Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel and all that. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.